great. It's so biohackery.
I know. Austin, Texas. I love it.
I know. Jeffrey Lioon. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
What a morning. So welcome everybody to the podcast and my living room. This is truly how I envision all podcasts going, is that you have some biohacking gear on. We're doing a little self-optimization. We opted for 3 rounds in sauna and cold this morning. And it was just, man, I had this moment, Jeff, in the sauna where I was saying to myself, what else would one need?
Yeah. Not much.
Not much. Not
Good
much.
people, hot, cold. Yeah. It really starts your day on a great note.
It really does.
You know?
It really does. So you're here because I've wanted to have you on the podcast for a long time, and we've known each other. I want to say we met at did we meet at maybe like Paleo Effects in Austin, Texas?
I'm thinking. Yeah. Or maybe through mutual friends.
Yeah. Adriana.
Yeah.
Our lovely friend Adriana. Princess Ariel in real life. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
She's great.
I know. So if we were to pass each other in the street and I were to say, Jeff, I know you work with this company known as OligoScan. What would you say you do, and what would you tell me about the tech?
I would say that I test for mineral deficiency and metal toxicity. And we're looking at one snapshot of the human body, and specifically minerals and metals, which are elements.
Yeah. And if we're looking at minerals and metals within the body, how are you doing that?
Yeah. So we're using spectrophotometry, which is light.
Mm-hmm.
So we're using the full spectrum of light, and we're shining that into the hand tissue. So 4 millimeters deep into the hand. So every metal and mineral is an element. Every element has this thing called an atomic emission spectra, and that's what it reflects light at. So that's what gives the element the color to the naked eye.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we're shining the light into the hand, and we're measuring how much light is reflected and absorbed to give us a better understanding of what minerals are bioavailable in the tissue for the body to use, and what metals have bioaccumulated over the course of one's life. Not last week, not last year, the whole life.
Yeah. And why tissue? Why is it important to look at the tissue within the body for metals and mineral balance?
Yeah. So the tissue is the destination, right? We use the hand for 2 reasons. One, it's the only place in the body where the pigment is the same across all races and ethnicities, so it's standardized. 2, it's a major excretion point. The 4 excretion points on the body are the hand, the feet, the scalp, and the underarm. So we're looking at the tissue, right? A blood test is looking at what's in circulation.
Mm-hmm.
As metals come into the body via food, water, air, the body's first defense is to push the metals from the blood to the peripheral tissue. You don't want high metals circulating in the bloodstream. The body wants to stay in homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
So a blood test is looking at what's in circulation. A hair test is looking at what's been excreted via the hair in the past 90 days. It's an excretion test. Urine is either challenged or unchallenged test. We're using a chelator to provoke the body to release metals. So again, it's looking at what's in the urine, provoked or unprovoked. This test is a tissue test. So we're looking at what's accumulated in the tissue over the course of your life.
Yeah. And I think that's a theme that we often will address on the show, is that the body is bioregulatory.
Yeah.
It's doing the best it can to manage burden from the outside world. We looked at a really fascinating, you had a PDF up on your computer when we did my scan, which we'll talk about later, of chocolate and the levels of cadmium and lead in chocolate. And so if someone were to come up with elevated level of cadmium or lead or even a mercury, where do we look? Where do we look in the environment? And one of the common sources that I know I eat is I'm a chocolate fiend for the last few years. Especially in I've noticed in times of adrenal deficiency when I'm extra tired that a dark chocolate would do me right.
Yeah.
Getting me through the rest of the day with a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to live your life too, right? You can't stress yourself out over every little thing that, oh my gosh, this might be toxic. This might be toxic. The reality is there's toxins all around us every day. And I really like to remind people to focus on making sure that you're stimulating the body, you're exercising, you're sweating, you're stimulating the lymphatic system, you're active. You're making good choices. I think we just really need to get down back to the basics, clean water, clean food, clean mind, not stressing ourselves out, being fun, not taking life too serious.
Yeah.
Not creating the stress. And if you are really stressed, then, maybe perhaps diving into that and understanding why, and maybe, you're in a job that doesn't serve you. Maybe you need to, reflect on that to get to something that would bring you more fulfillment in your life. But stress is number one, and stress will manifest in the test report, So it's a combination of everything. But yeah, cadmium I see high in a lot of people. It's the most common metal besides aluminum in people from the age of 15 to 40.
To dovetail onto chocolate for a minute,
Yeah.
and so we can almost put a bow on that one.
Yeah.
What levels are we talking about when we say it's bad? Like in what percentage, in what excess, so people can understand when they are looking for a source of chocolate that they would like to imbibe or ingest.
Yeah.
What looks good, what look bad, and what are the levels we're talking about?
Well, the fact of the matter is that there's no safe level of lead and cadmium in the body. It's a heavy metal. There's no purpose for lead and cadmium in the body. So there's no safe level. That being said, there's better choices you can make regarding what chocolates have higher sources of lead and cadmium than lower. So I'd encourage everybody to go on a consumer reports, and look up you can easily find it with a Google search, chocolate cadmium lead consumer reports level, and pick a brand that has the test lower for lead and cadmium. So just being, a smart consumer in that sense. But chocolate also does have a lot of antioxidants. It is a superfood. So it's, in my opinion, it's just about maybe, not eating it every day, or picking a brand at least that is a little bit lower in lead and cadmium.
Yeah. Great. How, when we said back to OligoScan, we said we have this technology that shoots, you said, a full spectrum light into the tissue?
Yeah, it's shining the full spectrum of light, which is from 200 to 800 nanometers. So basically the rainbow, all the visible colors.
Great. I wanted to be clear that this was a rainbow technology that we're using into the body.
Yeah.
And why do we use a full spectrum of light? You said 200 to 800 nanometers shown into the tissue. What does that give us?
Yeah. So that's all the colors in the rainbow, right? And if you look at the periodic table of elements, all the elements that we're testing for, the basic minerals, 21 minerals, 16 heavy metals, if you look, all of those elements, they're within that 200 to 800 range. So the atomic emission spectra, that's what they call it. Every element has an atomic emission spectra. And each one of the elements that are reported, their atomic emission spectra is in that range. So that's the visible light range that we're shining to get a reading.
Yeah. So is there a way to look at the periodic table and see how almost the rainbow is laid across that table? Does it shift like that on a periodic table?
I've never really explored that. I've more explored the relationships between particular elements. So, for example, not everyone, but a lot of elements, based on their location on the periodic table, will have relationships with one another. An example of that is aluminum and silica, antagonist synergist relationship. Fluoride, bromide, chlorine, and iodine, all on column 17 of the periodic table. Cobalt, nickel, antagonist synergists, and the list goes on. But there's different relationships based on the location.
Yeah. And so with this technology, and we're using this full spectrum of light, just one more time, walk us through the mechanism in which this tool is able to garnish information about both minerals and metals from the body.
Yeah. So basically we create a patient card. So we have the person fill out, their name, their birthday, their age, their blood type, which makes a significant impact on the test report. The scientist, when he was, figuring out the OligoScan, he noticed that each of the blood types have different protein antigens that, similar in my mind to the atomic emission spectra, they impact the test. So blood type, height, weight, birthday, and then we do the actual test. We take 4 measurements on the palm of the hand. And the light is, again, shining 4 millimeters into the dermis of the hand. Technically, the light is penetrating the blood, the cells, and the interstitial space, which is the beginning of the lymphatic network. So the light is being shined into the hand, and then we get the test report pretty much instantly. And that is giving us a snapshot in that moment in time of the tissue, basically the tissue levels of minerals, vitamins, and metals.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to, again, correlate, as somebody who's done a lot of testing, I've done blood, you mentioned a urinalysis. So taking a chelating agent like EDTA.
Yep.
Or DMSO that would initiate a dump of toxins. So I've looked at that. I've done the hair tissue mineral analysis where I shaved off my beard, sent it to a lab. They basically break that down, and that you get a reading of what's being excreted throughout the body,
right?
As well as blood.
Yeah.
So and what I've found to be amazing is like high correlative nature.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot of similarities, like aluminum on my last 3 tests has come up. Cadmium's come up on my last 3 tests, showing a stress pattern or the inability to relax at the end of the day. Is a pattern within my minerals and metals. So it's been really interesting because we just did a test on me, and that's exactly what very, very similar to the test that I had to donate biological material for. This one took a few seconds. So I was really impressed with what I saw. Yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, I've done over 2,000 of these tests. I've tested people over the past 8 years. I've tested myself. Like I was telling you, when I first tested myself, my test report was a lot of red, and I was skeptical. I was like, I don't believe this. I mean, this was when I was in college. I was binge drinking, eating dining hall food, stressed out, on Adderall, you name it, I was doing it. And my test report reflected that. And I was just skeptical. I tested myself a month later, see the same thing. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. I tested myself a year later, and it still showed me the same thing. And granted, my lifestyle was the same, didn't change anything. And that's really that's when I was like, okay, I think this is actually showing me something that I need to take, some progressive actions towards.
Yeah.
And that's what started me down my journey. And 8 years later, I've almost completely normalized my own test report, but I've also done a 180 in terms of lifestyle, diet, water, you name it. So yeah, for me personally, I've seen my own test report change based on taking better care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've scanned several, a lot, 2,000 people almost at this point. And the trends that I see are remarkable. So it's incredible. I mean, I really believe it's God's gift to me to help people. And I'm just trying to connect the dots. And I like to have people fill out a questionnaire beforehand. And the questionnaire, it's extensive, but it asks, what do you eat? What do you drink? Where do you live? Do you smoke? All kinds of different questions, because I need to look. I can't just look at the test report and tell you, all these different things. I need to understand how you got there. I need to understand the whole story, because this is just a tool that's helping us connect the dots.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. Again, my mind wants to go in who in some divine state invented this, because it was not you who invented this test.
No, it was not me. So the story I know is that a Brazilian scientist in the early 2000s was using this. He's developing this, right? And he tested thousands of people, and it took them 8 years to test enough people where they could establish reference ranges using Gaussian statistical methods. And then, the OligoScan became first available in 2012. And my dad, started Douglas Laboratories. So I'm blessed that I've been in this alternative health space pretty much my whole life. And when my dad sold Douglas, after he sold Douglas, he had a 2-year non-compete contract, and he grew Douglas in Europe. So he was always in Europe meeting new doctors. And after he retired from Douglas, he met the owner of OligoScan, and that's when they hit it off. And he's been with OligoScan for the past 12 years.
Amazing.
So it was really a beautiful story. But yeah, it's been incredible for me personally, just to test so many people, and for me to connect my own dots and see so many similar patterns. And like the PowerPoint I showed you earlier, you see these patterns, and it for me at least, like it just makes sense. Like you test somebody, for example, that has had an amalgam filling, but it's not your typical amalgam filling. It's a porcelain fused to metal amalgam filling, and it has nickel inside. And you test the lady, and the nickel's high. And I do this, I've done this over the past 5 years, countless examples. And for me, it's just like, this thing is telling us, it might not be telling us what's in the brain. It might not be telling us what's in the liver. The only way to truly know is going to be to take a biopsy, but nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
But the cells are communicating with one another. So it's giving us an overall understanding of intracellularly what is going on from a mineral bioavailability standpoint and a metal toxicity standpoint.
Yeah. One of the things that comes up for me is this idea that these are junk car parts. And so, like, as you said, there's no place for cadmium. Mercury doesn't serve the body, whereas magnesium, potassium, zinc, copper do. And so we look at these toxic burdens, and then we wonder why the person has an excessive viral load, or why does everybody in the household have Lyme disease? And I think this conversation around junk car parts, I also want to own that this is not a conversation you go have with your primary care doctor.
Yeah.
This is not urgent care. This is not, for most part, not accepted as even valid science.
No.
And I want to just put that out there, and not that I'm extremely biased either way. But in Europe, is this something people would use to garnish information about health in the body?
Yeah, it's a European company, and it is used. I mean, it's used all around the world, primarily in Asia, Australia, Europe to some extent. I mean, that's where the company is headquartered. But yeah, it's a little bit more accepted, but it's not mainstream.
Yeah.
People are relying on blood tests, and this is not a replacement for a blood test. There is no replacement for a blood test. Blood tests are this gold standard. But the bigger question to ask is, what are we looking at?
Mm-hmm.
This is different than a blood test. The blood is what's in circulation. This is the destination. So it's not to say you need to do one and not the other. I see, why not do both and use both of that, all the information that we can gather to make a conclusion or to help symptoms, really.
Yeah. And I think that's I think in that new information that we're taking a screenshot from the body, it's like for me, can also be, okay, I got this great new information. I got this scan that tells me there's possible work to do. It's like, then where do I go?
Yeah.
Like, what is, I would revert back to the thing you've said at the beginning of the podcast. You had a horrible scan. You changed your life.
Yeah.
You changed hydration, movement, your belief system, your levels of joy, what you're committing your time to on the planet, purpose.
Yeah.
Those big things. I say, yes, I had a big shift. Technology played a massive role, and all the food, the quality of my water, how I spend my time in nature.
Yeah.
The big one is constantly rewiring how I communicate with outside world.
Yeah.
How I let things impact me, or how I can act as a buffer and not let things so deeply affect my insides.
Exactly.
Which, again, I think there's so much there in those lists that can make a massive impact on the health. Do you want to add anything to that list for you that comes up?
Yeah. Also, like, your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And how you see the world, and are you thinking for yourself, or are you listening to what other people tell you? For me, I was living in New York City. I graduated from college, moved to New York City. I got really lucky. I got an amazing job. I was working for a freight forwarder, so I was moving international freight across the world. And I was really happy. I believed in the company. My heart believed in the company, and I did it for 3 years, really happy. But it got to a point, as any young company grows, they get too big too fast. And it got to a point when I felt like a cog in the machine. And, living in New York City, you don't pick up the best habits there if you're a young 28-year-old single guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
there's some trouble to get in there.
Yeah. And I actually had a dream, and it was, I needed to go to the jungle. And that's what I did. I went to sit with ayahuasca in Peru, and that it was like a leap of faith. But that was the game changer in my life. I went down there, and was in the jungle, and I sat with this medicine, this sacred medicine, this rite of passage,
Yeah.
and I came back a different man. And
Yeah.
the point of that story is that it progressed me on a new life, and
Yeah.
I wanted to truly do something that was going to help others, but something that I truly believed in.
Yeah.
Working the 9 to 5 I was getting no sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And then I started to, I want to be more in nature. I don't want to be living in a concrete jungle.
Yeah.
I want to be in nature more. I want to take care of myself better. I want to do something that I'm passionate about. And,
Yeah.
it wasn't easy at the beginning, but eventually I made it work, figured it out.
Yeah. What was your biggest takeaway from the trip to the jungle? What really sat with you from sitting with a medicine who, again, if you're just listening to the podcast for the first time, or ayahuasca is a very powerful combination of different plant medicines that are prepared in a very ancient way with respect to the jungle and the roots and the plants and the leaves, and very divine in its coming together. What was your takeaway?
The biggest thing for me was that it allowed me to open my heart. It allowed me to open my heart and start living from my heart versus my mind, because I was just overthinking everything. I thought I wanted this. I thought I wanted that. And it allowed me to just completely come back to nature and open my heart. That was really the biggest takeaway for me. I got back to New York City after that trip, and this was right when COVID started, but I lasted like 2 weeks. I was like, what am I doing here? There's literally no trees. I'm literally living in a cardboard box. So it's dirty. And then, it lasted a month, and I was like, why am I working here? Like, I'm literally a cog in the machine.
Yeah.
This is not why I'm on this planet. This is not why I'm here to do this. And I was like, well, I'm going to take the leap of faith. And, it might be hard for a little bit, but I'll figure it out. I'm smart. I can figure it out. That's what I did. And it's like a new life. It's like a new beginning for me.
Yeah.
So it's been a blessing. So, if it resonates, it resonates. You have to feel called. But for me, I kind of just knew, like, I need to go to the jungle and, like, just sit with something greater than myself, and just go with an open heart, good intentions, and see what happens.
Yeah. Isn't it wild? I've had a couple plant medicine experiences where you, especially like the next day when you're walking around New York City, and I love the city. I was there for 20 years, but it's the dirt and the dysfunction and the pain, especially that I would feel the pain walking down the street of looking at people's faces and connecting with people. And there was so much sadness. I was like, these people need trees. They need the park.
It's true. Another thing too, the most ironic thing too, is that, you go down there and, you don't eat a lot of meat. You want to stay, light, so you don't eat meat.
This is a preparatory phase for the medicine.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
The week before, no meat. Okay. So you go down there, there's no meat served. There's like some fish and eggs, but it's just ironic that, like, that whole experience brought out this desire to get closer to where my food comes from. And that ultimately propelled me into working at ranches and farms, working with farmers and ranchers, getting into hunting, learning how to hunt myself, learning how to process the animal in myself. And it's just ironic how, like, ayahuasca is like a plant medicine, right? But it almost took me down this road of just getting closer to nature and getting closer to food, because I test a lot of people with this OligoScan, and I test a lot of vegans, and you see mineral deficiency across the board, vitamin deficiency across the board. And I think that's a great reminder that it's all about balance. Eliminating an entire food group from your diet, that's not balance. So and on the other extreme, carnivore, it's also not balance. You need a balance. My mother always taught me that you need balance, and it's true.
Well, yeah. What if you've seen, just to speak to the patterns, you said you've tested a lot of vegans and you notice a strong pattern of mineral deficiency. Have you seen any patterns from somebody eating a strict carnivore diet or the strict keto diet?
Yeah. So carnivore is great, and I'm definitely more carnivore. However, it can be very taxing on the adrenals. So, it can be really beneficial for some people that have never done it before, because they do it and some of their symptoms just disappear, because I think that it's so laser focused on just eliminating a lot of the bad stuff and just eating quality food. But I think long term, I think it's more beneficial to really incorporate different kinds of superfoods. Like, for example, I love cilantro. Cilantro is such an amazing chelator. Potatoes, source of energy. If you go without carbohydrates, for an extended period of time, you might not have a lot of energy. That's important. So
Yeah.
there's all kinds of, I just think it's a balance. It's really about balance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating to look at the different waves of, especially after being in the health space for a long enough time, you see the trend coming through. There's like always a wave of one meal a day to fasting, to intermittent fasting, to dry fasting. And then within the dietary trends, it's wild to see how this will impact. It'll be really interesting to me. I would love for you to be able to do pre and post maybe 60, 90 days on some of the GLP-1 inhibitors.
Yeah.
Some of the Ozempic, and wondering how a peptide would impact what nutrients is allowed into the body, because it's affecting, for some people, it's affecting the transit time of food.
Yeah, I really want to do more studies with things like that to see how it's affecting the mineral metal status. Yeah, it would be fascinating to me.
Yeah. I always look at it as like an energy credit card. I was like, well, if the weight's coming off, like where is this being borrowed from? Is it strictly from the peptide? Is there another system that takes on the burden down the road? As a new drug, I don't know if we'll know for a while, but I always ask myself those questions. I was like, oh, I wonder what happens in 10 years when that's, played out.
Yeah. Or, looking at the root cause. Why is the person overweight? And looking at the iodine levels, looking at the antimony levels, right? Looking at the thyroid. So from a mineral standpoint, I like to at least get this test, at least gives me an understanding, a snapshot of, where they're at from a mineral standpoint. But I'm a root cause guy. I always like to understand the root cause. Why is somebody overweight? What is it an emotional eating pattern that they're suppressing, and that's causing them to overeat? I like to look at the root cause. But some of these peptides sound very promising.
Yeah, and I would say morbidly obese, the risk of heart disease is greater than mineral deficiency. I would make that case. I was like, yes, do that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, let's see why that arose. It's typically not the energetics we bring as Americans. We want the fix.
Yeah.
We don't care why the problem arose in the first place, which is okay. And I think there's a cost to, I've seen in all the stories I've ever read, there's always a cost to a shortcut.
Totally.
In all the Greek tragedies.
Ozempic, it's from a Gila monster, right?
They say that. Yeah.
I think so. I think that's it.
Yeah. It's wild.
I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you seen, let's talk about, you've tested a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you're not a clinician. You're not running a practice. You're working with training, education, and you're helping practitioners use this tool to garnish better information about their client population.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen from your network people really look at the balancing, and do you have any stories or success stories you can talk about as far as like metabolic function, fatigue, weight loss, people having improvements?
Yeah. So I'll first touch on the top metals, some of the top things that I see a lot of, right? A lot of aluminum toxicity, right? Mm-hmm. Aluminum is coming from antiperspirant deodorant. It's coming from cookware. It's coming from antacids. It's coming from a lot of processed food. It's found in tap water. They're, of course, spraying our skies. Some things you can't control, so don't let that stress you out. Focus on the things that you can control. But antiperspirant is huge. When I see aluminum high in the red, it's antiperspirant. Well, the easiest thing to do is stop using antiperspirant. Get in a sauna, sweat more, and you can use some salves. There's a company called Herbalix Restoratives. They make these salves. Mm-hmm. So they help vasodilate the skin and pull the aluminum out. So you can apply that in a sauna. So I see a lot of aluminum, a lot of high fluoride, a lot of low iodine. Fluoride is a halogen. It blocks the absorption of iodine and vitamin D in the body. We don't test for chlorine or bromide, but usually if somebody has low iodine, I like to ask, do you swim in a lot of chlorine swimming pools? Do you have a shower filter? Do you drink tap water? Likely that's going to be a big contributing cause of that. Mm-hmm. Cadmium, there's more cadmium in the soil because of the phosphate fertilizer industry. So it's not just chocolate. It's actually the soil. So a lot of non-organic fruits and vegetables still are going to be loaded in cadmium. Also living in a city, cigarette smoke, vapes are not good. So there's a trend here, and the trend is, identify the source and reduce the source as much as you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's I have three principles to this. It's A, reduce the inputs, reduce the toxins, reduce where it's coming in. 2, provide the building blocks, the minerals of what we need. And then 3, maximize the outputs. So sweating, jumping on a rebounder is great, lymphatics, but just exercise. Sweating, exercise, being active, find a sense of community, but excretion out of the body. Mm-hmm. So if we can work on all 3 of those different things simultaneously, that puts us in a better position to become healthy.
Yeah.
Because I really believe that 70% of this is the lifestyle, the diet, the water, the food. It's just, we got to get back to the basics. And then, the other 30% of that is, okay, what different unique things can I take or do to really fast forward detoxification and excretion of metals? So I really like zeolite. I like Jeff Hoyt's Zeocharge a lot. I've seen testimonials. I have my own testimonials with my own cadmium and my lead. I really do like the foot bath.
That was the beep before everybody at home. I am in a AMD ion cleanse, who most people listen to the podcast will know this one. The water is disgusting and brown and yellow and green and black, actually. It's really wild. I'll post a picture of some of this in stories, but yeah, it's so funny. We were just talking, and I know they've done the testing on decreasing cadmium and aluminum in the body in 40 foot baths.
Yeah. Well, a couple years ago, I was like, you know what? I want to try this. So I reached out to A Major Difference, and I was like, hey, Glenn, let's do an experiment. I was like, OligoScan, you send me this? Anyway, I did 40 foot baths, and I told him, I was like, I'll give you the results before and after. My cadmium and aluminum dropped 25%.
Yeah.
And I loved how it made me feel. I would just kind of meditate when I did it, and I got in that parasympathetic state.
Yes.
And, a lot of people are like, oh, well, the water is going to change colors regardless, but it's the ion differential. From my understanding, it's the differential that allows the body to excrete the metals. I'm sure they can probably talk about it better than I can.
From my understanding, it's a plate. In salt water. So you're going to have a chemical reaction. The water is going to change colors. But what I've noticed is like, I could have 2 people right next to each other, and the waters are totally different from the same household, from the same sink. Yeah. One will be brown and orange. One will be green. There's a different reaction coming on. And the color is not the toxins coming out of the body. They put the feet in the water because you have great big pores at the bottom of your feet. You're creating electrons. Yeah. And you're adding electrons to the system. This is not dissimilar from a grounding principle or energetic medicine or the body keeps score. We want to open communication lines. So whether it's parasympathetic or it's flooding the body with an electron that's going to be able to form a bond. Now, this system flips between negative and positive ions. I think this is one of the only ones to do that, and why Mercola loves this brand. Why all the different naturopathic doctors use this brand. But I've always loved it, and there's so many testimonials. I know, isn't it gross?
I love looking at it.
It's like gross water. With that, so it's a fan favorite. And again, but the thing is, you got to use it.
You got to use it. Yeah, you can't just let it sit and collect dust. You got to use it.
Yeah, you got to use it.
I love to use it though. It feels great.
It feels great. Yeah, your home health hack without having a foot bath is go to the beach every day and walk in sand. Yeah, because the ion charge from the beach. How good do you feel after you walk on the beach for a day?
I was just in LA and for a wedding, and I was there for like 5 days, and people wanted to go to a bar and get drinks. I was like, I just want to go to the beach. I just want to go to the beach. I love the beach. The salt, the sun is so healing.
It's so like, good.
We got to get back to the basics.
I know.
Salt, sun. I mean, it's the most healing thing on earth. And people too. Surround yourself with good people. Anyway, foot bath.
Yep.
Zeolite, I like. Clean water. I mean, that's number one.
Paramount.
In the shower as well. You gotta shower in good water.
I know.
So
tell us why, in your opinion.
Well, your body is the largest organ. So the skin is the largest organ in the body. So the skin is going to absorb what you put on it, just like aluminum you put on the underarm, right?
Yeah,
blocking the ability to sweat, which you don't want.
Also, jacking it right into like the major lymph node system that drains into your breast.
Yeah,
but do that. Keep doing that.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, you when you're in the shower, you're going to absorb, if you're showering in tap water, you're going to be absorbing chlorine, which I think is even worse than fluoride. I mean, chlorine, you don't want chlorine, fluoride, all the pharmaceutical metabolites. I don't have to go on. And there's just a lot of crap in
well,
tap
just
water.
if people at home, if you want to go to ewg.org and you want to put in your zip code, you can see what's in your water table and just, read on and just explore that and just make a good educated guess on, do I want my tap water based on these results? Do I want to be showering in this water? Because we're also creating a fine mist and a gas in a shower, right? And we're breathing a lot of moisture into the lungs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So make sure the water's in check. Your food, right? We want to eliminate seed oils as best we can. I tell people this all the time, and it goes in one ear, out the other. They give me all this fuss about it, but liver organ meats are the most nutrient dense food on the planet. I'm not saying you have to eat them every day, but like once a week might really help you. Nutrient dense foods, tallow, good olive oil. I was just in Europe, and I had an amazing trip, and I got back and I weighed 5 pounds less, and everybody says that, right? But I was like, wow, I actually did, and it's because I used olive oil on every single thing.
Well, inflammation too just drops in your body. I just, the last time I was in Europe, 2022, I noticed, and I was there, I worked my butt off.
Yeah.
And I was in a moldy hotel, and none of the food, there was no digestive upset. Everything, just all the inflammation in your body kind of quells. And that's just the report I received from all my friends. I had a couple, just Dr. Nick and Nicole from Integrative Wellness Group. They packed up their house. They moved to Italy.
Wow.
They're like, we got to be here.
Yeah.
And they love it.
Yeah, I had the best time. It's amazing. Oh, here's something funny too. I test myself every week because I'm the guinea pig, and I need to know what works and what doesn't. So when I travel, I always assume it's going to be worse because I'm sitting in a plane. I'm breathing the exhaust fume on the tarmac. I'm eating like crap. There's just the food's not as clean as when I'm making it. So put it that way. I tested myself after I got back from Europe, and my test report got way better. And I was thinking, I was like, why would that be? And my new hypothesis is, I really think it's a testament to stress. Stress manifests deficiency in the body. The more stressed out we are, I don't care how much of whatever you're taking, the more stressed out you are, the less healthy you're going to be. And when I was in Europe, I was on vacation. I actually put an auto reply. I'm not responding to emails for 2 weeks. Don't bother me.
Yeah.
So not that my work is stressful, because I love what I do, and it's a blessing, but I'm just saying, not having to, define, responding to people. But I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a testament of stress. So the number one thing people really can do is, find 5 minutes to put on relaxing music and maybe meditate or take a walk. Just get yourself in that parasympathetic state. And, don't try not to take life so serious sometimes, Don't create the problem. Don't like create, I have Lyme. Well, maybe you can talk about this better than I can, because I've never had it, but don't be the victim. Like,
it's hard. It's hard when you feel that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
But I think you have to, both in interpersonal relating and in your health, you have to stick to the facts.
Yeah.
If you stick to the facts and a biological test, because a lot of times we'll do blood work in a person with Lyme and it looks great.
Yeah.
The facts from blood work say, you're doing good. Again, another reason to say there's more to the picture of diagnostic work.
Yeah.
Can we find a Borrelia burgdorferi? Can we find the spirochete in your system? Maybe. Is your immune system actively fighting it? Sometimes. Now what I just mentioned, now you're $2,000 deep in tests. You got a lot more data, but did it really give you information into what you're going to do? A lot of times people have that data and they've been on antibiotics for 3 years. Your body's still not winning the war. And we've got these circulating antibiotics within the blood.
Yeah.
Spirochete's a smart organism. It's not going to stay in the blood. It's going to burrow, just like syphilis, into the tendons, into the collagen. It's going to go for a low circulating blood supply volume. And then when you are really stressed out, when you lose your job, when your partner leaves you because they're tired of being a caretaker, then people go into full blown, they have a flare.
Yeah.
So there's an intuitive nature here. And back to your pattern, identification of stress, like how do you change? Because we're not going to eliminate stress.
Yeah.
I think we really have to do the deep work to change our relationship with stress.
Yeah.
And what does that feel like? You know, I'm reading this great book right now called Us, and it's looking at why we are avoidant, why we are intrusive in our relationships, why we have grandiose behavior. You know, we have an adaptive child that's just learning how to manage. It's coming up with the best possible solution for the type of parenting you had.
Yeah.
And just but there's some point in life you don't have to do anything, Dean. You could totally be the victim your whole life, but you have to say, what is the value of me stepping away from the victim position?
Yeah.
You know, where do I have agency?
Yeah.
You know, and in that, I think that is for me, that was really the road to move forward, is saying, where do I have agency? Where do I have choice? Well, I feel like I want to stay in bed all day, but can I take joy in a book I read or listening to good music? Yeah. Can I take joy in journaling? I mean, it was the simple stuff.
Wow.
Going for a cup of coffee, be like, great, I made it out of the house today. This is a win.
What, bless you. What was the turning point?
I mean, it was, a turning point over 15 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I had times where, I had great success with amp coil, with a PMF, which really helped scar tissue in my belly, which is just in so much chronic pain. I had turning points with taking the standard American diet and eliminating it and going full whole foods. I had great impact in developing a sleep hygiene protocol. So the ambient light in my room, the light before bed, how it would let my nervous system go into sleep mode. I love The Boys on Amazon. Have you watched that series? No. Oh my God. It's like the alternative universe of superheroes who just do things for likes. And it's just so fucked up, but it's so good. But I'll go to bed with a resting heart rate of like 72. Wow. And normally I'm 49. Wow. And so that tanks my sleep. But I love the show, and I'm like, it's that thing. It's just the dopamine. I'm wired for dopamine as Freddie Kimmel. Yeah. Like that serves me very well. And then I just like a crack pipe, I'm like, I'm going to watch one more. So, and I'm choosing to have a bad night's sleep. Right. And then do that 3 nights in a row. And then whatever happens, a disruption in your social life, or you have a hard week at work, it's like compounded stress until you lose discernment. Until you're like, oh, I'm totally off the wheels. And I wonder, this is my question to people at home, like, have you ever had a time where you're just like, I'm off the rails. I don't have discernment or control anymore. I need a hard reset. Because I've definitely been, even with all the shit I know, I still do it. Yeah.
So you would say over time, it's gotten slightly better based on the lifestyle decisions that you've made?
Oh yeah. It's just compounded interest. Yeah. I mean, again, it's like, the idea of eye on the prize, like there's going to be some layer where I'm like, great, I'm fully functional again. Now I can let all this stuff go and just go back to living, is bullshit for me. Yeah. It's like, it's a short road. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the pain, embrace when life hands you in the emergency room with a surgery. Great, let's go. Yeah. How am I going to ravel this into the empowerment piece? Yeah. Because if not, I'm a pincushion. Yeah. Because life's really hard. Yeah. I mean, I think that was one of my favorite quotes is Princess Bride. It's life is pain. Yeah. Anybody who tells you something different is selling you something. Yeah. Right. It's painful. Totally. And if you want to open your heart, if you want to open this, sometimes I'll look, in moments of, especially the last 8 months, I've been doing EMDR therapy, and I've noticed I'm so overly emotional sometimes. Like, where a friend would lose a partner, or I'd have a friend get really bad news, and I'd be like, oh, it sucks. And now I'm like, oh, I'm going to go in the other room and I'm going to cry a little bit. Yeah. And I'll just let it come out. And so I think if you want to open your eyes to at moments to see how lucky we are in the United States. I mean, dude, I'm at a foot bath. We just did a sauna at the house. You're sitting on the Nano V. I'm like, I live like a king.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Expressing emotions, that's amazing. That's healthy. Yeah. You don't want to keep emotions repressed.
Yeah.
The more you repress emotions, I mean, that really builds up in the body. That causes disease. That's dis-ease.
Yeah, totally.
When you repress anything. So
100%.
That's a beautiful thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. I was a perfect person to get cancer. I mean, I owned it. I operated. I built the perfect terrain to have that. Yeah. And not no one's fault, but there was a saying in my house. It was like, cowboy up. Don't cry. Cowboy up.
That's
that was
that's the generation
yeah.
couple before us.
Yeah. It was like toughen up, stiff upper lip, be a man. You don't. This is how we handle things. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, how are you feeling? What are these emotions like? How do you process? There's no conversation about emotional processing, and I had none.
Yeah.
So that is a place in my life which was arrested in its development, and now I'm learning that skill.
Yeah.
And it's clunky, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're going to ride a bike now. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And the only way I'm going to get better at it is practicing it. And I got to practice it every day. I can't do it once a week.
Yeah. That's beautiful though.
Yeah.
You realize it, you're doing it now.
Yeah. I feel it. I feel these points where it just feels like someone clamped down, like there's nothing coming up and I should be sad now. And then other times they'll be like, I'll watch a commercial with a puppy and they'll pull back the fat puppy skin and I'm bawling. I'm like, what's happening right now?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I'm learning. Yeah, I'm learning. I'm flexing this muscle just like I would in the gym.
I love it.
Yeah. But I have to imagine that emotional tension in my tissue. And there is a rigidity in my tissue. Like I'm always like, I'm so stiff.
Yeah.
Where I'd be like, I'm stiff. I'd tell myself that's Lyme, that's spirochetes in my tendon. I would make a story.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I went to a training session the other day and we did some Postural Restoration Institute stuff. And I did breath work. Dude, my shoulders dropped 2 inches. Wow. And the trainer was like, do you see how much space is in between your words right now? I was like, I do. Like I felt the change, and it was all rib cage and pelvic floor stuff where I was holding a lot.
Exactly. And we hold a lot.
Yeah.
So that's just another reminder. It's like, don't create the problem in your head. I mean, we know that, we're being blitzed at every angle, and it's very hard. It's very hard to live a clean life these days just because it's so dang toxic around us from every angle. But I've gone down that fear route. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Just live your life and be happy and find things that bring you joy. But also at the same time, don't be complacent. Make good decisions, right?
Yeah.
There's a balance.
Yeah. I would say curating an environment where happiness is possible. We can experience those peaks.
Yeah. And
I just find such value there. And dude, a lot of times when I really feel bad, I can't remember if I said this on the last podcast, but I've had a month of just haven't felt good.
Yeah.
I've been overtired, I've been stressed out. I feel depleted. Sleep has not been great. I've been doing the Zeo charge.
Yeah.
And that's definitely moving some stuff.
Yeah.
There's other things in my life that are unfolding, and I've really needed to check in.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do I need right now? And sometimes on my worst day, I'm like, I feel so shitty. I'm gonna call somebody else and help someone else. I'm like, I have nothing for me right now. I'm gonna go help someone else because I know I can pick up the phone. This person wants to get on the phone. They're asking for advice on something. I know I can do that in my sleep. So sometimes
that's a great mentality to have.
Yep. I'm going to go help somebody else because right now I'm pissed at myself. I can't seem to, there've been moments where I'm like, I just can't let go of the frustration from where I'm at. So I'm going to go focus on somebody else. And I think even that stepping outside myself and being like, dude, step out of your own bullshit for a second, and go do this. Yeah. And usually it's a good tactic for me to get out of my own head.
Does the sun help you a lot? Well, things like that, like grounding, just the basic.
Yeah. I mean, going to Barton Spring is an amazing shift in how I feel.
I agree.
Mineral water, sunshine, community, grass.
Yeah.
Amazing shift. I'm going to go today.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. It's amazing.
I always say I'm going to go every day, and then I go like once or twice a month.
Even just running around the lake for me.
Yep.
Like I could, be stressed from something or just not having the best day. And I'll just go force myself to run around the lake, 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah.
I feel like a new person after.
Yep.
I'm like, wow, all I needed was a little bit of exercise. That's it. It like just flips your total state of mind.
But isn't it interesting in this world? It's like, we're not in danger from wild animals. We don't have to build structures with our bare hand. Most of us, we don't build our homes with our bare hands. Right? We don't have to move heavy rocks. We don't carry water from the river. We don't forage for food. I understand it seems ridiculous. I'm like, really? We got to go make up fake movements of lifting heavy things and fake running from nothings because there's no need for it. But that's the world we live in.
Yeah, it's the world we live in.
I think that's really like understanding the design. It's for me, it's like, you know, because sometimes for me, I look around a gym and I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, are we always just really wasting energy and picking heavy shit up and down? Because sometimes it just feels ridiculous to me.
Oh, don't get me started. I've had, it's been an interesting evolution the past couple months. I've like really been like, I don't want to, maybe it's because it's so hot outside here.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to go in that fluorescent lighting gym and lift weights. I'd rather just go run around the lake.
Yeah.
But now recently I'm like way back into lifting. So it's just like, it's funny how like we go through these cycles, but I agree. I would rather just be outside.
Yeah. Or even there's a community build project. Be like, we're raising a barn today. Come on, guys, come lift up these 4x4, you know.
Have you seen the video of the Amish carrying the barn down the road? Oh, no. It's really funny.
No. Yeah, it's so interesting. It's so interesting life. Jeff, pivoting back to OligoScan, so this is a practitioner tool. Yeah. And do you need some type of a licensure to be able to get on OligoScan and use the software and learn how to use the tech and do the diagnostics?
Not really. I mean, we sell mainly to practitioners, clinics, health coaches, people that have a business that are already familiar with minerals and metals, because that's really important. I mean, it's one thing to do the test. It's another thing to try to understand what the test is telling you.
Yeah.
So for the average person just looking to get tested, you can go on our website and you can submit a ticket, and we will send you the list of the closest practitioners that you can go to get tested. Also, you know, personally, like I test myself every week, so which you don't need to do because you don't see a lot of change week to week. I really recommend, you know, it's nice to just get a baseline, see where you're at, you know, and then from there, like you really don't need to test yourself all the time. I really like to give it at least a month or two to like actually make changes. It just depends on, you know, is the person doing a 180 like I did, or is the person already pretty healthy and they're just making small tweaks? Or do they have a metal toxicity that they know about and they're looking to see what the progress is? But, you know, I really recommend giving it some time in between tests.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about, I grew up in my dad's sheet metal shop from when I was 13 till when I was, I mean, all the way through on and off through college, like 22, 21, pretty consistently. And I remember the office was in the fabrication shop of all the sheet metal. And so we'd take up the tiles and like change the air, and there'd be piles of like aluminum dust.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine. I'm like, when I have aluminum come up, or what was the other one that we had? The barium. The barium was in all my scans for every MRI I ever did, or every, you know, contrast I ever did. It's really interesting. So I've definitely had exposure. It's something I'm aware of. Between this and the HTMA and the blood work, that's why I'm doing the Zeo charge to see, again, can I make a shift? But more importantly than the numbers coming down, I want to feel the functionality change.
Yeah. So we're going to get exposure. There's so many different places where you can get exposed to metals and whatnot, right? I always try to keep in mind that like the three most important minerals for cellular defense are going to be selenium, zinc, and iodine. So, you know, I personally, I like to say I don't take a lot of supplements. The reality is I do. But I mean, I'm the son of a vitamin boss, so I just, it's like kind of in my blood to take supplements. I do, but I try not to rely on them. I try to get the majority of nutrients from my food, or at least a good amount, you know. But that being said, zinc and selenium and iodine are really important if you think that you're being exposed to metals in the environment or industry or whatever. Those three minerals are really important for cellular defense. And I really, you know, zinc, you know, where do you get zinc? You get zinc from a lot of animal meat, from protein. Oysters also have the highest amount of zinc out of any food, I think, besides liver, but oysters. So I really, you know, it's like you could take zinc biglycinate, or you could take oyster pills. I found this guy in Ireland that sells oyster pills, and he tests every batch for heavy metals, every batch. It's costly. But he's like, it's worth it. And people have to understand that like there's a significant difference between eating an oyster from Louisiana versus eating an oyster from British Columbia. I mean,
Dude.
the Mississippi River
Dude.
is not good.
It's the bottom of the toilet.
Yeah. And
of the United States.
all the glyphosate,
Woo!
all the chemicals going, you know, the watersheds going down into the river and then out to the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, that's just in the heavy metals and chemicals and toxins and pesticides and So that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, not everything is equal. Like, you know, just because you're eating an oyster, well, that's great, but like you got to think about like where's it coming from.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. It's
sourcing becomes important.
Sourcing's so important. And where can people find OligoScan and learn more about it if they're a practitioner listening to this podcast and they want to look at metals and minerals? Yeah,
you can visit us at theoligoscan.com.
Great. Theoligoscan.com.
Yep. Theoligoscan.com. Yep.
Great. It's so fascinating. I just think it's always, again, the building blocks of life, minerals. And Dr. Caroline Dean was just on. We just talked about this, and obviously we had Jeff Hoyt on.
Yep.
He really did a great download on zeolite and the very unique dosing of zeocharge. So there's a lot of tools out there we talk about, but I just think one thing I've heard again and again, especially talking to you today, is look to create a balanced paradigm in which health can exist and not to be driven by fear on any type of a lab or a level that you get back, and don't let that story spin out of control.
Totally. And never forget, our bodies are so innately intelligent, way beyond our comprehension, in my opinion. So just because you take something doesn't mean it's getting absorbed, digested, assimilated into the cell. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Like, our bodies are super intelligent. Like, I really believe that, you know, just because we might have some mineral deficiency over here, well, the body's probably compensating in some manner to get what it needs or hold on to something that it might need that's being depleted by something else. So, like, have faith too. Have faith. Like, our bodies are incredible. We're detox machines.
Yeah.
We're built to detox. We just have to give it the raw ingredients and cut out all the garbage. As best we can. And let the body do it.
I love it. So Jeffrey, our final couple of questions here on the Beautifully Broken podcast. You get a magic wand and you can tune in all the television stations of the planet into your station right now. What would you tell people of planet Earth at this time, and this time that we're alive?
I would say go outside. We need to start worshiping the sun again. We're so afraid of the sun. We lather toxic chemicals on our bodies. We need to worship. We need to change our relationship with the sun. The sun is so important. Light is so important. And I think a lot of us are taking life way too serious. And I think we need to just find people that find our tribe, find people that we love and resonate with, and build that tribe. And we need to find more joy. We need to ditch the phones. We need to ditch the phones.
I love it.
I'm telling you,
I know. They're so powerful.
I love technology. It's definitely given us so many benefits.
Yeah.
But, you know, one of my best friends has this, every week he goes to a new restaurant and he doesn't bring his phone, and he sits at the bar and he just has dinner and he just has conversations with people around him. I think that's like such a good reminder. Like one little thing you can do to like just disassociate.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, there's a lot of benefits from it. I mean, right. Getting messages out and sharing information, almost like too much, but it's been great. So it is definitely beneficial, but I think maybe just distancing ourselves a little bit would be better.
Yeah. I think that's really smart. And then the last thing I want to ask is the Beautifully Broken podcast. You know, we talk about using these experiences that can feel like, incredibly unfortunate things that are thrust upon us. If we think about this idea of putting the pieces back together, what does it mean to you to be beautifully broken?
I think it's the human experience. Like, we're here to feel emotions. We're here to go through challenges and feel joy and feel happiness and go through turmoil. I think we're here to feel all this emotion. So like, I don't think we should ever lose sight of the fact that like we're in this human experience to feel. So just have faith, stay positive, try to see the best in life, the best that, the hand that you were dealt, and, never give up. Like I really believe that we can create our future, and we can manifest whatever we want into our lives. And we just need to remember that.
Yeah.
So always just stay positive and stay focused and never give up.
Beautiful. Never give up. All right, Jeff, it was a pleasure.
It's been awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Big love, everybody.